Friday, September 8th. Later. The obituary in the Tangerine Times said that Mike Costello would have a public viewing tonight and a private burial ceremony tomorrow. I was actually looking forward to going. For one thing, I'd never been to what Mum was calling a Catholic wake. But I was also feeling very, very low about myself and about the soccer team, and I realized that Joey was the only person I knew who was feeling worse. He was someone who even I could feel sorry for. I squeezed into my blue suit, and Mom, Dad, and I drove in the Volvo to O'Sullivan's funeral home on Route 89. As we drove, I pointed out the steady series of osprey nests, each at least 10 feet in diameter, built along the tops of the high-tension wires. Dad said, "They ought to get rid of those things." "Why, Dad?" "Why? They could short out power for the whole town. That's a crazy place to build a nest." I thought to myself, maybe so, but at least the osprey don't have to smell the muck fire. And their streets don't get flooded every time it rains. I wondered if their nests ever got hit by lightning. We pulled into the parking lot of the funeral home. There were lots of 4x4s and sports cars. All of the football players and a lot of the seniors who knew Mike Costello had come. Eric was in the parking lot too, the big group of kids around him that included Paige, Arthur, and Tina. As we walked inside, I began to get a scared feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'd never seen a dead body. I'd never been in a funeral home. There was a powerful scent of flowers, too powerful, as we passed the lobby. 2 separate viewings were happening. The viewing for Michael J. Costello was taking place in the room to the right. As soon as the wooden doors opened, I could see him, Mike Costello. He was laid out in a casket. He had bright lights on him. His right side was facing the public. The casket was steel gray with a white satin interior. I was really amazed. Here I was, looking at an actual dead person, a person who I had seen alive just days before. Mike Costello looked terrific. He looked like he was lit from within, like a wax statue in a football hall of fame. I didn't know how to behave. I'd never been through anything like this before, so I copied Mum and Dad. They walked up to the casket and knelt on the padded kneelers. They said a short prayer and then got up. I waited for them to finish, then I knelt down alone at the casket. Closer up, Mike Costello didn't look so terrific. There was no hair on the left side of his head. There was no hair on his left hand, either. I got back up and looked for Mum and Dad. They were waiting behind another couple for a chance to speak to Mr. and Mrs. Costello. I walked up and stood with them. I was surprised to hear how light their conversation was. They weren't even talking about Mike. They were talking about the lake and our development and what might be happening to the koi. I looked around for Joey, but I didn't see him. I saw football players and cheerleaders and student council types spread out all over the room. Mr. Bridges was there. So were Coach Warner and the other football coaches. When it was our turn to talk to the Costellos, Mum expressed how sorry we were about the terrible accident. I just murmured, "I'm sorry," and shook hands with them. Mrs. Costello said, "Joey will be glad to see you here. I know he wants to talk to you. He wants to ask you something." The room was just about filled, mostly with high schoolers and adults, but then I did see a group of middle school kids coming in, and Joey was with them. A girl from my math class, named Kara Clifton, gave him a big hug right in front of everybody. In fact, she kind of hung on to him. Then she and the rest of the middle school kids went over and found seats. Everybody in the room seemed to be sitting down. Joey was alone for a minute, so I went over and said, "How's it going?" "Hey, Fisher. It's going. What's happening at soccer practice?" "I don't know. I got kicked off the team." "Yeah, right." No kidding. I really did. I got kicked off." "No way." "Yeah, way." Look, the priest just came in. I gotta go sit down, but I want to hear about this. I gotta ask you something, too." I went over and sat with Mum and Dad. A young priest came in and started saying the rosary with everybody. We didn't know what that was all about, but we sat there with our heads bowed and said some of the prayers. Then the priest spoke about Mike. He talked about what a good guy he was. What else could you say about Mike? I don't know anybody except Eric and Arthur who wouldn't say that about him. A lot of people in the room were crying. A whole lot of people. After the priest left, some of the kids left too, and some of the adults got up and started to talk again. We stayed in our seats for a while. Mr. Donnelly went back to the casket and knelt there with his eyes tightly closed for a long time. Mom pointed out people from Lake Windsor Downs, a gray and white Tudor, a York with a circular driveway. Paige was talking to a man I recognized from the football practice meeting. He was her father, Arthur Bauer Sr. Mom pointed out Tina Turretin's mother, too. She looked like she could be Tina's older sister, very young looking. I recognized a few of the other parents who had come to the meeting in our great room, but I don't know their names. After a few minutes, we walked out into the lobby. That's where I saw Joey again. He had one arm around Kara Clifton, who was crying uncontrollably. He was shaking hands with Coach Warner with his other arm. A couple of guys from the soccer team were there, too, a couple of the toe stubbers. They obviously hadn't heard that I was off the team. One of them said, "What's up, Mars?" which I didn't mind at all. That nickname is all I'm ever going to get from the Lake Windsor soccer program. Carrie Gardner came up and put her hand on Kara's shoulder. She looked over at me and said, "Hi." She explained to Kara that their ride was waiting and they had to go. Then she turned back to me and said, "I hear you're a great soccer player." I just stood there, unable to think of anything to reply. Kara let go of Joey and asked Carrie for a tissue, and the two of them left. Joey joined his mother and father near the door, where a line had formed to say goodbye. It must have been a tough thing to stand there and say something to every one of those people, but that's exactly what they did. When Mom and Dad and I got up there, the Costellos started asking them about the meeting in our great room, how it had gone, and who said what. Joey picked up our conversation where we left off. "So, how did you get kicked off the soccer team? I thought you were on the bus." "I was on the bus. At least I think I was." "Walski kicked you off?" "Yeah, I don't know. Sort of. Murrow sent him this memo saying that I'm in a handicapped program, a program for the visually impaired. He freaked. He said he'd lose his insurance policy or something." Joey was shaking his head. "Oh, man, that's cold. Maybe my dad can file a lawsuit for you or something." "Is that right?" "Yeah, he's a lawyer. He can file a lawsuit. It's got to be against your civil rights. Your parents are paying taxes, so you can go to this school, right? Why shouldn't you be allowed to play on the school team?" "You're right. It's not your fault you're a geek." "Hey, thanks. Thanks a lot." "Hey, you know what I'm saying?" Yeah. "Look, do you want to go to the carnival with us tomorrow?" I was shocked to hear Joey say that. I answered, "Isn't tomorrow the funeral?" "Well, the funeral is first thing tomorrow morning. My mom thinks it's a good idea that I go out and do something with my friends tomorrow afternoon. Life goes on, she says. We've been doing nothing but funeral stuff, since it happened. So she says I need to get out and do something to take my mind off it." He looked over toward his parents. "They're more worried about me now than they are about Mike. You know what I'm saying?" I looked at Joey's parents, then at mine. He asked me again, "So, are you up for it? The carnival?" "Yeah, sure, I guess. I don't know anything about it. I heard the announcements about it at school. It's pretty cool for Tangerine. It's low rent, but it's cool in a low rent kind of way. I'll call you tomorrow afternoon." "Yeah, all right." Mom and Dad and the Costellos finished their conversation. I wish I knew what they talked about. It must have been serious, because Mom and Dad didn't exchange another word all the way home. That was all right with me. I needed time to think. I looked out the window at the starry night, at the high-tension wires in the osprey nests, and I thought, over and over again, about what I could have said back to Carrie Gardner.